When everything crumbles, Jenna Monroe checked. Reflection one last time in the lobby mirror of the Rousseau Tower. Her charcoal blazer was pressed perfectly. Her auburn hair pulled back in a neat bun, and her portfolio felt solid in her hands. This was it. The interview that could change everything. After 8 months of job hunting through Chicago's competitive market, she'd finally landed a meeting with Rousseau Enterprises. One of New York's fastest-growing tech companies. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt like climbing toward destiny. Jenna rehearsed her opening lines silently, adjusting the thin gold bracelet on her wrist. It had belonged to her grandmother, a woman who taught her that confidence wasn't about being perfect, it was about being real. She touched it gently, drawing strength from the memory. Inside the boardroom, the conference room was impressive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan's skyline, and a gleaming glass table stretched before her. 6 executives sat waiting, their expressions ranging from mildly curious to completely disinterested. At the head of the table sat Daniel Rousseau himself. He was younger than she expected, probably in his mid-30s. Dark hair, focused brown eyes, and an intensity that seemed to fill the room. Jenna took her seat, feeling the weight of their stares. She began her presentation on brand repositioning for tech companies, her voice steady despite her racing heart. She was halfway through explaining consumer behavior patterns. When she leaned forward to emphasize a point about authentic marketing, that's when it happened. The chair gave a sickening crack. Time seemed to slow as the seat split beneath her, sending Jenna tumbling backward in a tangle of limbs and scattered papers. Her portfolio flew across the table. Her carefully prepared charts floated down like autumn leaves, and she landed flat on her back, staring up at the ceiling lights. The moment of truth's silence crashed over the room like a wave. Then came the sounds, awkward coughs, shuffled papers, and worst of all, barely suppressed laughter. Jenna's face burned hot with embarrassment. She could see her entire career crumbling before her eyes. Every rejection letter she'd received over the past months flashed through her mind. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of running from the room in tears, Jenna started to laugh. Not the nervous kind, but genuine, honest laughter. She sat up slowly, brushing her hair from her face, and looked directly at the executives. "Well," she said, her voice surprisingly calm, "I guess that's one way to make an impression. Though I was hoping to demonstrate falling market shares, not actual falling." A few executives cracked smiles. One older woman covered her mouth to hide a grin. But it was Daniel Rousseau's reaction that surprised her most. His serious expression softened, and the corner of his mouth lifted in what might have been approval. Standing up again, Jenna gathered her scattered papers, slipped her shoes back on properly, and stood. She looked down at the broken chair, then back at the room. "I should mention that wasn't part of my planned demonstration," she continued. "But it does prove my main point about unexpected challenges in business. It's not about avoiding the fall. It's about how you get back up and keep going." Daniel leaned forward slightly. "Would you like another chair, Miss Monroe?" "Actually," Jenna replied, smoothing her blazer, "I'll stand. I think I've done enough sitting for one interview." Time, even Daniel smiled. It was brief, but genuine. The unexpected turn Jenna continued her presentation standing. And something shifted in the room. The executives actually started listening. They asked questions. They engaged with her ideas. What could have been her most humiliating moment somehow became her most authentic one. She spoke about genuine connection with consumers, about the power of real stories in marketing, about how people respond to humanity rather than polish. When the interview ended 30 minutes later, Jenna felt strangely calm. She'd bombed it, surely, but at least she'd done it on her own terms. As she gathered her things, Daniel stood and walked her toward the door. "Thank you for coming, Miss Monroe," he said formally. But there was something in his eyes, a warmth that hadn't been there before. "Thank you for the opportunity," Jenna replied. "And sorry about the chair." "The chair was clearly defective," he said. Your response, however, was anything but. The viral moment, Jenna made it to the coffee shop across the street before the first notification hit her phone. Someone had recorded the interview. Not the fall itself, but her response afterward. The clip was already spreading across professional networking sites. "Candidate turns disaster into opportunity," read one caption. "This is how you handle pressure," said another. Her phone buzzed again. An email from Russo Enterprises? She opened it with trembling fingers. "Dear Miss Monroe, thank you for your time today. We will be in touch shortly regarding next steps. Regards, the Russo team." Professional, distant, expected. But then a second email arrived, from a personal address. "Miss Monroe, the chair has been replaced, but your response cannot be replicated. Coffee tomorrow? I'd like to hear more of your thoughts on authentic marketing, and perhaps other things. 10 a.m., if you're free? Daniel Russo, New Beginning." Jenna read the message 3 times. Her heart did something complicated in her chest, a mix of excitement and terror. This wasn't protocol. CEOs didn't personally invite candidates for coffee. Not like this. She looked down at her grandmother's bracelet, remembering those words about confidence and authenticity. Maybe falling wasn't the disaster she thought. Maybe it was the beginning of something she never expected. Outside, as the New York afternoon sun broke through the clouds, painting the buildings gold, Jenna typed her response carefully. "Mr. Russo, I'll be there. And I promise to check the chair first. Jenna Monroe." She hit send before she could overthink it. The coffee shop barista handed her a chamomile tea with a kind smile. "You look like someone whose day just got interesting," she said. Jenna smiled back. "You have no idea." As she sat by the window watching the city rush past, she had no way of knowing that the simple act of standing up after falling would change everything. That honesty in a world of corporate performance would matter. That tomorrow's coffee would be the first of many conversations. That the CEO who rarely smiled had found something rare in her response, something real. The viral clip continued spreading. Her phone kept buzzing. But Jenna just sipped her tea and watched the clouds move across the Manhattan skyline, feeling for the first time in months that maybe, just maybe, everything was about to change. Tomorrow would come soon enough. Tonight. She would simply breathe and believe that authenticity still mattered in a world that often forgot. The bracelet caught the light on her wrist. She smiled. The morning after Jenna woke up to her phone exploding with notifications, the video of her interview response had gone beyond professional networks and landed on major social media platforms. "Marketing genius turns disaster into gold," one headline read. Another said, "This woman just taught us all how to handle failure." She scrolled through comments while sipping coffee in her small Brooklyn apartment. Most were supportive, encouraging, even inspired. But some made her stomach twist. Clearly staged for attention. Another, corporate climber using stunts. "She's only getting noticed because she's pretty." Jenna set the phone down and stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Her grandmother's bracelet caught the morning light. She'd promised herself after losing her marketing job in Chicago that she would never compromise who she was for a position. That promise felt harder to keep now that the whole world was watching. By 9:30, she was dressed in a simple cream sweater and dark jeans. Nothing too formal, nothing trying too hard, just herself. The coffee shop Daniel had suggested was a small place in Midtown, the kind that locals loved, but tourists never found. Coffee and conversation, Daniel was already there when she arrived. Sitting in a corner booth with 2 cups of coffee waiting, he wore a navy sweater instead of a suit, and somehow looked more human without the corporate armor. "You came early," Jenna said. Sliding into the seat across from him, force of habit, he replied, pushing 1 cup toward her. "I got you a vanilla latte, but I can get something else if that's wrong. It's perfect." "How did you know?" He smiled slightly. "Lucky guess. Or maybe I pay attention." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the coffee shop noise filling the space between them. Jenna noticed he seemed different here, less guarded, more present. "So," Daniel began, "you've had quite a 24 hours. Jenna laughed softly. "That's one way to put it. I went from unemployed and invisible to internet famous for falling on my back. Not exactly the career trajectory I planned. But you're handling it well, am I? She met his eyes. Honestly, I'm terrified. Half the world thinks I'm inspiring. The other half thinks I'm a fraud. And I'm just a person who wants to do good work. Honesty meets honest. Daniel leaned back, studying her with those intense brown eyes. Do you know why I invited you here? To discuss the position? Partly. But mostly because in 12 years of running companies, I've sat through thousands of interviews. Everyone performs. Everyone presents their carefully crafted version of success. You're the first person I've seen who stopped performing and just existed. That's rare. Jenna felt her cheeks warm. I didn't have much choice. The chair made that decision for me. No, Daniel said firmly. The chair broke. You chose how to respond. That's different. Before Jenna could answer, her phone buzzed loudly on the table. She glanced at the screen, and her expression changed instantly. Connor, her ex-boyfriend from Chicago. The man who'd left her 3 months after her grandmother died, saying he needed someone more stable, less emotional. You should get that if you need to, Daniel said. I really don't. She declined the call and turned the phone face down, but Connor wasn't done. A text message lit up the screen. Saw you on my feed. We should talk. I made a mistake. Ghost from the past. Jenna felt her jaw tighten. Daniel noticed immediately. Old friend. He asked carefully. Old mistake, she corrected. My ex. He left when things got hard. Now that I'm getting attention, suddenly he wants to reconnect. Daniel's expression darkened slightly. People have interesting timing. That's a polite way to put it. Her phone rang again. This time she answered, stepping away from the table. Connor, this isn't a good time. Jenna, please. I saw the video. You look amazing. I've been thinking about us, about what we had. Had something until I needed you, and you disappeared. I was scared. I'm better now. Can we meet? I'm actually in New York. I came to see you. Jenna's blood went cold. You came to New York? I'm at that coffee shop you used to talk about. The one in Brooklyn near your place. I thought we could talk there, like old times. Connor, there are no old times. We're done. Please respect that. She ended the call, her hands shaking slightly. When she returned to the table, Daniel was watching her with concern. Everything okay? Just someone who can't accept that some doors close permanently. She tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. A different kind of offer. Daniel was quiet for a moment, then spoke carefully. Jenna, I want to be honest with you about something. The position at Russo Enterprises is yours if you want it. Your presentation before the chair incident was brilliant. What happened after just confirmed what I already suspected, that you're exactly what we need? Jenna's heart leaped. Really? Really? But I also need to tell you something else. He paused, choosing his words. The attention you're getting, it won't stop. Working with us will amplify it. There are people in my world who will question your qualifications, who will say you're only here because of a viral moment. It won't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is, Jenna replied. Daniel smiled at that. True, but there's one more thing. He hesitated, and for the first time, she saw uncertainty in his expression. I'd like to get to know you better. Not as a candidate, not as an employee, as a person. But I won't do that unless you want it to, and I won't let it affect your position either way. Jenna's breath caught. She looked at this man who ran a company worth millions, who could have anything he wanted, and saw something unexpected in his eyes. Vulnerability. Why me? She asked softly. 'Cause in a world where everyone's trying to impress me, you're the only one who seems comfortable just being yourself. That's terrifying and refreshing at the same time. The warning before Jenna could respond, a woman approached their table. She was older, maybe 50, with silver hair and sharp eyes. She handed Jenna a folded napkin, then walked away without a word. Confused, Jenna unfolded it. Written in precise handwriting, be careful. Not everyone at Rousseau is happy about your arrival. Trust actions, not words. A friend. Daniel leaned forward. What is it? Jenna showed him the napkin. His jaw tightened. "This has happened before," he said quietly. "When I hire people who don't fit the traditional corporate mold, there's always resistance. Some of my board members believe in old structures, old hierarchies. They don't like disruption. Am I disruption? The best kind." He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand, but close. "I can't promise this will be simple, but I can promise it will be honest. That seems to matter to both of us." Jenna looked at the napkin, then at Daniel, then at her grandmother's bracelet glinting in the light. Every instinct told her this was complicated, possibly messy, definitely risky. But the same instincts told her it was real. "When do I start?" she asked. Daniel's smile was genuine and warm. "Monday, but first, would you have dinner with me Friday? Not as boss and employee, as two people who might want to know each other better." "Yes," Jenna said before fear could change her mind. "I'd like that," watching eyes as they left the coffee shop together. Neither noticed the figure across the street with a camera phone. Connor stood in the shadows, recording their exit. Watching how Daniel held the door for Jenna, how she smiled up at him, how comfortable they seemed together, his jaw clenched. He'd come to New York to win her back, to reclaim what he'd foolishly thrown away. But now there was competition. Wealthy, powerful competition. Connor made a call. "Yeah, it's me. I need information on Daniel Russo, CEO of Russo Enterprises. Everything you can find. Weaknesses, scandals, anything useful. And I need it by tomorrow." He hung up and watched Jenna disappear around the corner, her laughter carrying on the autumn breeze. She'd always been special. He'd been an idiot to leave. But he wasn't an idiot anymore. And he wasn't giving up without a fight. Back in her apartment that evening, Jenna stood by her window overlooking Brooklyn. Her phone showed the job offer email, now official. Monday, she would start a new life, a new chapter. But the warning napkin sat on her counter, a reminder that nothing came without complications. She thought about Daniel's eyes. The way he listened like her words actually mattered. She thought about Connor's sudden reappearance, his convenient timing. She thought about the woman who'd handed her that warning and wondered who she was. Her grandmother used to say, "When life gets interesting, hold on tight and trust your gut." Jenna touched her bracelet and made a decision. She would take the job. She would go to dinner. She would be careful, but she would not be afraid. Outside, the city lights flickered to life, painting Brooklyn in gold and shadow. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Friday would bring dinner and possibilities. Monday would bring a new beginning. But tonight, Jenna simply breathed and believed that sometimes falling down was just preparation for rising up. The first week Monday morning arrived with crisp October air and nervous energy. Jenna stood outside Russo Enterprises wearing a professional burgundy dress and her grandmother's bracelet, feeling like she stood at the edge of something significant. The building looked different now that she belonged here. Less intimidating, more welcoming. The lobby receptionist smiled warmly. "Miss Monroe, welcome. Mr. Russo asked me to escort you to your office." Office. Her own office. After months of unemployment and doubt, those words felt like magic. The space was modest, but beautiful, with windows overlooking the East River and a desk that smelled of fresh wood. A small plant sat in the corner with a note attached. "Every new beginning needs something alive and growing." "Welcome to the team, Daniel." Jenna smiled, touching the soft leaves gently. Her first days were a whirlwind of introductions, meetings, and information. She met the marketing team, a diverse group, who seemed genuinely excited about her ideas. She learned the company's structure, the ongoing campaigns, the vision Daniel had for authentic brand building. Everyone was professional, mostly welcoming. But she noticed certain looks from senior staff, questions behind polite smiles. "So you're the viral girl," one executive named Patricia said during a team lunch. The words weren't unkind, but they carried weight. "I'm the marketing strategist," Jenna replied calmly. The viral moment was just how people found out I existed. Patricia studied her for a long moment, then nodded with something like respect. Friday evening by Friday afternoon, Jenna was exhausted but exhilarated. She'd contributed ideas to 3 campaigns, completely restructured a failing social media strategy, and earned cautious approval from most of her team. But now she faced something more nerve-wracking than any board meeting. Dinner with Daniel. He'd texted that morning. Casual place. Nothing fancy. Just good food and honest conversation. Pick you up at 7. She'd agonized over what to wear, finally settling on dark jeans, a soft green blouse that matched her eyes, and ankle boots. Her grandmother's bracelet stayed on. It always did. Daniel arrived exactly at 7, driving himself in a surprisingly normal car, not a limousine, not a sports car. Just a practical sedan. "You look beautiful," he said when she opened the door. And the sincerity in his voice made her blush. "You look different without a tie," she replied. "Better or worse?" "More real," smiled at that. "Real seems to be our theme." Dinner and Discovery, the restaurant, was a small Italian place in Greenwich Village. The kind with checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles. Nothing pretentious, nothing performative. Just good food and quiet corners for conversation. They talked about everything. Daniel told her about growing up in Boston, about his father who built businesses with integrity, and his mother who taught him that success without kindness was just noise. He spoke about losing them both in a car accident 5 years ago, about the loneliness of being at the top, about how hard it was to know who genuinely cared about him versus who cared about his money. "I'm sorry about your parents," Jenna said softly. "I lost my grandmother last year. She raised me after my parents divorced and basically disappeared. She was everything." "The bracelet," Daniel said, gesturing to her wrist. "Her last gift before she got sick. She said it would remind me to stay grounded no matter how high I climbed." Jenna's voice caught slightly. "Some days it's the only thing keeping me together." Daniel reached across the table and gently took her hand. Not romantically, not awkwardly, just humanly. "She'd be proud of you. You don't know that." "Yes, I do, because I see what she built. You're strong and kind and honest in a world that rewards none of those things. That doesn't happen by accident." Jenna felt tears prick her eyes. She'd heard a lot of compliments over the past week about her work, her ideas, her presentation skills. But no one had seen the part that mattered most, who she was underneath everything. The interruption: they were sharing tiramisu when Jenna's phone buzzed insistently. She ignored it once, twice, but the third time Daniel noticed. "You can check it," he said. "I don't mind." Reluctantly she looked. 5 messages from Connor. "I know you're out with him." "This isn't over, Jenna. You can ignore me, but you can't ignore what we had. I'm not giving up. Check your email. I think you'll be interested." Her stomach dropped. She opened her email app with shaking fingers. Connor had sent her a document titled "The Real Daniel Russo." Against her better judgment, she opened it. Inside were news articles, public records, timeline charts. Nothing illegal, nothing scandalous, but questions. About rapid company growth and partnerships that seemed too convenient. About competitors who mysteriously struggled when Russo Enterprises moved into new markets. About a previous relationship with an employee that ended with her quietly leaving and signing a non-disclosure agreement. Jenna felt sick. She looked up at Daniel, who was watching her with concern. "What's wrong?" "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." She turned her phone toward him. "My ex sent me this. He's trying to make you look bad, and I want to give you the chance to explain before I believe anything he says." Daniel's expression darkened as he read. His jaw tightened, but not with anger, with something deeper. Pain, maybe? Or resignation. "That relationship happened 3 years ago," he said quietly. "Her name was Rebecca. She worked in finance. We dated for 6 months, kept it completely separate from work. When we ended things mutually, she decided to leave the company for a better opportunity. The NDA wasn't about our relationship. It was standard for her position because she had access to sensitive financial information. And the competitors? Business is competitive. I won't apologize for being good at it, but I've never done anything illegal or even unethical. Every move I make is transparent and documented. Your ex is finding coincidences and turning them into conspiracies." Jenna studied his face, looking for lies, for hesitation, for anything false. She found none of it. Why is he doing this? She asked. Because he sees something he wants, and he's trying to eliminate competition. Jenna, I can't control what people think or what they dig up about me. My life is public record. But I can control how I treat people, and I can promise you that every word I've said to you has been true. The truth surfaces. Jenna was about to respond when her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Miss Monroe. A woman's voice, older, familiar somehow. Yes. This is Margaret Chen. I'm the woman who gave you the warning napkin at the coffee shop. I need to meet with you. Tonight, if possible. It's about Mr. Russo, but not what you think. Jenna's heart raced. Who are you? I was Daniel's father's assistant for 20 years. I know this family better than anyone. And I know what's happening to you isn't random. Please, 1 hour of your time. The truth matters. Jenna looked at Daniel, who could only hear her side of the conversation. Where? Margaret gave her an address in Brooklyn. A bookstore cafe, public and safe. I'll be there, Jenna said, and hung up. Daniel waited for an explanation. The woman who warned me wants to meet. She says she worked for your father. Recognition flickered across Daniel's face. Margaret. She retired when my father died. I haven't spoken to her in years. He stood immediately. I'm coming with you. The bookstore at the cafe was exactly as described, cozy and quiet, with rows of old books and the smell of fresh coffee. Margaret sat in the back corner, a small woman with intelligent eyes and careful posture. When she saw Daniel, surprise crossed her face, followed by something like relief. Daniel. I wasn't sure if you'd come, Margaret. He embraced her briefly. It's good to see you. But why the mystery? Margaret looked at Jenna. It's because someone is trying to destroy what your father built, and they're using her to do it. They sat, and Margaret pulled out a folder. Inside were documents, emails, phone records. 3 weeks ago, a man named Connor Phillips contacted Patricia Harrison, your head of corporate development. He offered her information about Miss Monroe in exchange for access to company financials. When Patricia refused, he went to the board members individually. 2 of them listened. Jenna felt cold. Connor went to Daniel's board. He's trying to create a scandal, Margaret continued. The narrative is simple. CEO hires viral sensation with questionable credentials. Shows her obvious favoritism, compromises company integrity. If he can make that story stick, he damages Daniel's reputation and drives a wedge between you both. Daniel's hand clenched on the table. Why would he do this? Because he wants her back, Margaret said simply, looking at Jenna. And he's narcissistic enough to believe that removing you from the picture will send her running to him. This is insane. This is obsession, Margaret corrected. And it gets worse. He's hired someone to follow you both, to photograph anything that could be twisted into scandal. The dinner tonight, he knows about it. He's probably having it documented right now. Daniel stood abruptly. Then let him document it. I'm not doing anything wrong. Jenna is hired because she's brilliant, not because I have feelings for her. He paused, then looked directly at Jenna. Though I do have feelings for her. I'm not going to lie about that anymore. The admission hung in the air like a bell that couldn't be unrung.